For this one, we're going to do, say, the suburbs, so it's where it's going to have houses and some type of other buildings. You need to have at least 4 buildings in this again. We still have our 1 point, a road going this way, a sidewalk, and then you can add a fence to it, and then other types of houses with garages and stuff. So just like what we did with the city, a vanishing point can be moved off to the side. It just is up to where you're putting it. You are going to draw your simple shape of a square this time with a triangle on top. Then we are going to make everything go back to that vanishing point. So depending on where your building is, like what I have here, you'll see more of a side or less of a side. And then you'll have the angle of your roof. When you're doing that, we'll want to think parallel, like when we were doing the letters. So this angle, I would slide my ruler back and draw my line, so that would make my roof. Then all these lines are going to be going to the vanishing point. And then these little parts that are making up the shingles are going to go parallel with that original pitch of what your roof is. Then all the siding, it's horizontal, and that will go back to the vanishing point also, along with doors or windows if you have on that side. Then you have your sidewalk, which I based off of where this door is, just a little bit further out. It goes back to your vanishing point. And then you have these all go to your vanishing point also. So you still have a horizon line, you still have a vanishing point, you still have horizontal lines and your vertical lines and your other little ones going backwards. But all the things this way will be parallel. And then that is kind of the same way, the way we did that. Start with your basic shape, go back to your vanishing point. It's still the same thing. Now it's a square that we added a triangle on top of to do houses. And with that, you could have a couple of different ways of, you could do the simple with a car garage built in. You could do a car garage on the outside. It's, you know, your choice on this one, but you need to have at least 4. And then we got really carried away when I was doing this, and it's kind of like you have more like a kind of a coliseum. It could be a museum, all those kind of gigantic houses that, you know, some people have. And we were adding some trees in there. Add your type of siding and your shingles and everything with it. So to get started, what you are still going to need is a pencil, eraser, and, you know, definitely a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, you could do straight edge once again with something like this. It's just a strip of poster board that I have cut. I'm going to use a couple of ink pens just so you guys can see the different things, but start everything out in pencil and do it that way. And then when you get to your bigger ones, start shading and all that type of stuff. So to do everything, I'm just going to go ahead and pretend that that's not here. So I would make up towards the top my vanishing point. Down at the bottom, I'd be like, okay, this is where a little bit of a road is going to be going through here. The rest of my road will be going this way. So I'm going to give a guideline. So I'm going to line this up, the edge of my ruler to the edge of my piece of paper here, to get my horizontal line started for what would be my sidewalk. And then this would be getting erased later. I'm going to do just another little space upwards from that. And this would be the edge of my sidewalk that would be touching the grass of the yard. And that way I have that started. Then what I would do, and some of this may get erased later, is decide where are you wanting your yards to be. So just give yourself a guideline. So I want this to be yard, and then all this will be my street. So what I would do is line that little mark up that I put on my sidewalk line that up to my vanishing point, and draw a line. Now some of this may get erased later because you may have a road or something going through. I'm going to do that on this side too, line it up to my vanishing point. And this way I have the sidewalks and the yards started. And when doing the houses, you could think, were all these houses built at the same time? Are they all the same type of houses? Are they different style of houses? when you're going for your little buildings and houses that you're doing. So now I'm going to go inwards just a bit, about the same amount of space I did here. I'm going to go out and draw a second line going back to the vanishing point. So this will now be for my sidewalk. And I will do the same thing on this one. And what I'm also going to do is go just a little bit below that first or the very front line. And this way it's giving me that step off of my sidewalk. And I'm only just going to do it on the sidewalks parts. And then you could erase this unless you want to keep it like a crosswalk or something. And I do have my little step here and a little bit of a step here. So now I can get started with, maybe I want to give a guideline of a fence here. So think of how tall do you want your fence to be. So maybe say about right there, and that fence is gonna say go over there to the other side too. So I'm just gonna line this up to the edge of my paper. This way I can give myself just a guideline, and I'm not even going to bother drawing it in there because the fence isn't going to be in my street. Then I have that vertical line still and a vertical line still that I'm going to give another guideline to follow back here. And another guideline to follow back here. Some of it will be getting erased later. So now I have guidelines of where a fence will be, and I'm just going to write fence here so we can see that this would be a fence. So your fence could be several different ways. It could be, you know, the flat planks that are just laid right next to each other. It could be like the white picket fence, kind of your choice with things. And this, you know, they could be all matching or not, kind of up to you. What I'm going to do now is just go back here just a little bit and start my building. So I'm going to work towards this. So I'm going to do a 2-story house, and then I'm going to put a triangle, but I'll mind some of it's going to go off the page just a little bit. So I'm going to start with my rectangle first, just like what you do for the city buildings. So to get started, I'm going to take my ruler again, line it up to the edge of my page, and, you know, just kind of think about what size you're wanting things. So I'm going to do this for the bottom of my house. Then you could just go up here and then make, you know, the one for top rectangle. Then I'm going to do a vertical. That could have went out just a little bit more. So what I'm going to do next is draw a little bit of a triangle that's going to overlap. So it's going to go like this. But this is going to get erased. So then I'm going to draw, think of where it's halfway. So I'm going to do, say part of the building is over here off the page. So from here to here, where's halfway? So I'm thinking halfway is right here. So I'm giving myself a light guideline, and I'm going to go upwards to do that. So now I'm going to go from that halfway point off the side of the house, and then I have that other part going off the page like that. So now I have my triangle started with the overhang of the roof, because your roof doesn't just stop right there, because all the rain would be going in your house all the time. That's why you have an overhang on all your buildings that have the triangle roofs, is so the rain, when it goes off your building and not into your house, if you didn't know that. So now I'm going to line this up to my vanishing point, and I'm going to take the top point of the house to here, and it could go all the way back. If you're doing two houses the same exactly, that's how it would go. They were built in the same kind of placement at the same time. And then not, then don't go all the way back. But it would be going back that way, do the bottom corner of the house. And depending on your house, you may want to check this side of the corner of the house. That ours is actually off the page, but you would check it to see if you could draw a line or not. So now I'm going to decide how wide of a house am I going to have, or how long. So I'm going to line this up to the bottom and slide it back to where I'm just like, yeah, that looks like a decent size house right there. Then I would draw my vertical line only on that rectangle part. Now what I'm going to do is line this up with the roof of the house and slide it back and go back just a smidge past the original one, because we want that overhang again. So it's going to be hanging over right there. Don't stop at that line, go back just a little tiny bit. So now that we have this started, this is the basis of, say, even a barn, a machine shed, any type of big building, or any type of small house. Even if you were doing a log cabin, this would be the basis of what you are doing. A square or a rectangle with a triangle on top. What I'm also going to do while we're working on the house is I'm going to go just a little bit underneath that original roof line and make it thicker, and do the same thing over here. So it's showing it still has that overhang happening on the front of the house. So this way it's still showing it's going over the top of the house like this. So this would be the roof angled up and over it. So then what you need to start thinking about is this would be, say, where the attic floor would be starting. This would be, say, your first floor. Here would be a guideline for half. So what I would do with my pencil is just make my halfway mark. So I'm going to go across first, this way. Then I'm going to go across the house using the vanishing point. And now I have my 2 floors started. So a door to the house does not go all the way up to, this would be the ceiling, and this would be the floor of the second floor. So think of how tall is my door. So maybe I have a door right here. So what I would do is think of, my doors are usually about the same height as my windows when you're looking at a house. If you didn't know that, they're usually the same. So I'm just going to do a guideline across here, and I'm going to then use the vanishing point and draw that one. So this way all my windows will be the same height here, or if I put a door. So I would have a vertical line for the door that I'd be putting in. And then what I'm going to do is, just so you kind of see where some windows would go, is do a couple windows here. And think of, probably about right there looks for the bottom of the first floor window. And what I would also do is bring that line as a guideline, and you could do these as light lines. Some people do them as dashed lines just so they know what they're doing, but it's going to end up right there. So now I would go over to the vanishing point again and do that. You could even do that as a dashed line just so you would know what it is. So vertical line was for the sides of the window here. It's also for the sides of the window here. And I'm going to do a couple on the bottom. And they could be a little bit smaller. Maybe right here I'm going to put a door. So the door is going to go all the way to the bottom of that. And then right there. See where this would be the door. And then we could do, let's do like a, oh, about right here maybe. give myself a little guideline so I know where I'm going. And this way I have a longer window. Right there. You could even do it like that or something. So then I would have windows I need to think about here. So let's do about right there and there. So there would be my floor space up to the bottom of the window. Then there's really like that ceiling, so there's that top of the window. And let's do a couple of those. So I'm going to give myself a guideline going this way first, so then I can have a guideline to go to the vanishing point. And then find my mark I put there. Now, these are my windows for over here too. And where mine's going, it's going to go into the roof. So I'm not even going to draw it, but it would be going through here. Then I need some vertical lines. So I'm wanting window here. We could do one going off the page. Then maybe this is like a bedroom that has 2 windows. Let's make this one a smaller window. Maybe it's like the bathroom upstairs has a small window, or it's a different room. And then you could even make them open up that way. So a window would be a vertical line here, and I'll just draw it in there so you can see, and this would be vertical and vertical. So you can kind of see where windows would go. So what I'm thinking is this is my door that's going to be next to my garage. So I'm going to make that just a little bit taller. So a vertical line and a horizontal line is what we're going to want here. I'm going to draw in a frame for my garage door. So I'm going to just do the same kind of lines again. And then think of how many panels does your garage door have to open, what kind is it? Or it could be an open one that is showing a vehicle in it. So then you have that started. Say there's your door handle, there'd be your window. Maybe this like goes into the kitchen or something. So to start with the siding, it's just going to go all straight across. We could do this in some blue. So we would just draw more lines going across, going across, going across, and then just keep doing that. And then you would pick up your ruler, take all those lines going back to the vanishing point. And some of them will be very small on that back half of your house, especially if you're using computer paper size paper. So they just keep going, and you would be doing the whole house that way. If we were doing a sidewalk out to the street from this one, it's going to go straight across the paper. I just give it's not right at the edge of the door. Let's make it a little bit wider. And it would be about right there. So now we would have our sidewalk. Here would be our door. What I would do for the door is draw just a line right there. So I have 2 vertical lines, so it's giving it that frame of the door right there. And then you could draw a window, but those would be vertical lines and then lines going back. So I would use that same guideline I gave myself, and then a vertical and a vertical line. Fill this in so you can see, like that would be the window for it. So we have a sidewalk here and a sidewalk here, and now we have a sidewalk that would be going out here. Garage, and this would have a sidewalk too. So let's do just a line for the garage. So I'm lining it up to that outer part, lining it up to the vanishing point, and drawing that diagonal. So there's your garage line. And then let's give ourselves just a little tiny space right here. And for that one, what I'm going to do is just another little space, and then another line, and that would be the sidewalk for here. So these, if we had sidewalk segments, are going to go straight across. Maybe your driveway has one too. My driveway is kind of poured in sections and has those division lines in it. So you would have your little segments that way. What we could just go ahead and do it now for this part and the other one. I'm going to just continue the sidewalk since we were working on it. So I'm still lining it up, and I'm going to go here and here. Remember, that line is our fence line. And then move it back. And then move it back. And move it back. And move it back. And each one gets smaller and smaller. So let's do one right up here. So that way we would get our sidewalk started. Let's just do a few more so we can see where. I know I skipped some. There. So this part and this part, we're going to use our vanishing point, line it up, and get our angles that would be going with the sidewalk. And then you would just continue more. Let's finish this side since we're working on it. And then this one, line it up over here. To get started, I'm just going to start right here. Then move it just a little bit. A little bit more. And just keep working my way. And then these would be vertical line up and down. And then a line here for vertical, 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 vertical. And then looks like I should have put one right here. And then a vertical line. And from that, it looks like I didn't do the little step off here, so let's go back and put a little bit right here. And then over here would also have one. So this would be a vertical, 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 vertical. So the steps of the sidewalk, when you're stepping off, are vertical lines, if you haven't gotten that yet. So the tricky one is the shingles for your house. So what I like doing is making the same amount of spaces going through first and just making little marks. And I'm going to make these a little bit larger than what they actually would be, so it's easier for you to see. I think of these as like Christmas lights put on there to start with, and that way, say, people get more of the idea of how they would have the even space around them. So these lines are all going to go to the vanishing point. So I'm going to draw that, move it down, continue, and when we then go to the next part, that's where they're going to start alternating like bricks do, where it's every other one. And I'll just keep going, get you guys. And the shingles do take a while, but you want to make sure you have the correct angle, or they're going to look really funny on your roof, and you're going to be like, what's going on here? So, line this up. And it looks like we have one more. So from here, now what you're going to do is we're going to do the parallel part. So we're going to take it and scoot our ruler back as we go. And I'm just going to do a lot larger ones just so it's easier for us to see. So I'm skipping a line every other one. So I started out on, say, 1, 3, 5, 7, 6, not 6, 7. Then go back. Now I'm going to not go the same space, because what I'm going to do is go on number 2 or 6. See, there's number 6. Now go back to our odd, and I'm just slightly moving it back each time, and then move it back again, and you just continue doing this, but you want to make sure it's parallel with this. And what you may want to do is go back on number 2 and put your angles in. So if you have some on the other side, it would be the same way. What I was going to show you here is you would angle this, you know, if you wanted to go that way with that part of the sidewalk too. I was thinking that why I had the ruler there. So to do a fence, let's go in with a different color, and I'm going to start with this vertical line that we had right here. And to do that, what I'm going to do is, here, I'll show you the original. So we are going to do just little rectangles is all you're doing, and then they can go back to the vanishing point. So what I'm going to show you is how to do the fence. So here we're just doing little tiny rectangles, and then vertical lines for those, and then horizontal lines for the parts that are holding the fence up. You could do back here where I just did the straight fence that way. You could do little triangles on top depending on how large you're drawing. It may be kind of complicated with the little triangles that way. So we already gave ourselves a starting line for a fence earlier with our pencil. So you could just draw your rectangles in, make them different spaces. They could be really close. So I could draw just a few lines so you guys can get the idea of how a fence starts looking. And from this one, it could be really close, like a fence like this. Kind of up to you. This would be more of those privacy fences where they would just have, you know, do some lines like that, make it a little bit thicker on top, and you could call that done. And I'm just doing a light little line on them, and that way it would look like a fence post. If we were doing something like this, because this is going to get erased, you would draw couple of rectangles going across, and then these would be going back to your vanishing point. It'd be very little, but it's those little details that are really gonna pop up in your pictures to make them look realistic. And I didn't do something here, so you could even do a 3 thing if you wanted, or make them higher, kind of up to you. But then this would go straight across and then go down, and that would start adding in that 3D part. So then to do these buildings right here, they are all the same, where it's right here I drew a square just on the outer part, so I'll do that in a different color just so you guys can see, but it's the same concept with the siding and everything. So I have here, let's go, our house wants to be that size, so then it's the basis of, say this was our regular rectangle that we had, then you would put your triangle on top, and then say it's right here, then I angled it like that. and then these would be going back to your vanishing point. And, you know, think of this would be my 2 stories, so this would be 1 story. Like, this could be your garage. You could have a whole driveway coming out this way. Maybe it went that way. Parallel. So you could have, you know, your driveway coming around out to here or something. So maybe it went around like that. And then you had a sidewalk there. But things will be smaller because it's further away over here. Then what I had done for this building, this one's trickier to do, but what I started with was this part of the building and then built this on out further. So this I thought of as, and I'm just freehanding this, but it started this way. Then you would go to your vanishing point, make your vertical line again. So I'm just freehanding it, but this would start being your, this is going to be a really big house going off the page. So let's make sure we get this part right because it's going to bug me. So from here, I'm going to find halfway and go upwards and then connect these. Then that goes back. So now you have that part of your house. So we're working kind of backwards with this one. So we start with the big part of the house going across this way. Draw that to the vanishing point. Find halfway, because I'm doing just halfway up. Then make my triangle and go that way. Then what I'm going to continue to do is line it up with the vanishing point still. Bring this out more. So I'm drawing the line for this. So then I'm going to think, okay, where do I want that part to end? So I'm going to go, say here. Then I do a vertical line. And then how wide do I want this to be? So say about there, so I'm going to do another vertical line. Then I'm going to make my cube. Then what I was doing was finding the halfway point again, going upwards, overhang a triangle. Now I'm going to take this to here, and it's going to overhang just a smidge because it is an overhang of the house, so it's going to lay in front of that one. So I'm right here. Now I'm going to take this back also into that part of the house and then line it up to a parallel line. And you may have something over here that would be lining up to the vanishing point. And then I'm going to line that up to this here and slide it back. And that is how I would put a garage on my house. So then, like, my front door could be, like, right there. You'd have a little sidewalk. And then your windows. And that'd be a really big house right here. It'd be a 2-car garage. And to do this, it's the same way where I would draw this part going this way first, go to the vanishing point, and do all those things. So to do the pine trees that I have drawn here, just to do a little one in the background, what I like doing is just starting with a line, and then I'm going to make it a super skinny triangle. And from that, I'm just wisping my hand this way and this way to get those little tree branches started out. and then you just keep adding all your details to where it starts turning into the tree that you want. And this would be getting covered up because it has that house covering it up. So this would be a really big pine tree. But this way is another way to add a different tree. This one you can make look a little bit more realistic than some people end up with the broccoli tree sometimes. So this one I'm just layering in back and forth the different parts. So once again, add your different types of details and shingles. This one, it's the same way. This time it's just going straight this way, and then line it up with this line and go this way. So everything, remember, goes to the vanishing point. You have your horizontal lines, and then you always have your vertical lines. So this is how to start your suburbs.